overall, both quarterbacks have played completely sensational. Both teams have been playing absolutely phenomenal, both being 3-0, like I had stated. Winner takes sole possession of the division here, and I think that this game is going to be absolutely incredible. I mean, an electrifying light show. I mean, both offenses are lighting it up. Both defenses are playing solid. I mean, Kyle, I'm just going to ask you straight up, with both quarterbacks kind of putting themselves or catapulting themselves into this NFL MVP race, I'm just going to ask you, who do you think is going to be able to perform better under the pressure?
I'm going to be honest with you. This is a tough one for me to answer because they're both different in their own ways, but I'm going to go with Matt Stafford. Simply just because this is like Matt Stafford's first opportunity to run it with a real team, it probably throughout his entire career. And he's been playing phenomenal up until this point. Through 3 games, he has 9 touchdowns to 1 interception. He's completing 70% of his passes, and his quarterback rating is damn near 130. It's phenomenal. And the thing is, they've been going up against, maybe some decent teams. The Bears are kind of treading water right now. The Colts kind of suck, but, they had a huge win against the Buccaneers last week. And, I mean, it's tough. You're getting back-to-back games where you're going up against really good teams in the Buccaneers and the Cardinals. It's just, when I look at the connection that he's been able to establish with Cooper Kupp already, that connection, I can't believe it's popped off this quickly because Cooper Kupp looks like one of the best receivers in the league already. And it just, by and large, I think it's simply just because I think Cooper Kupp and him, they have a very good understanding of what they're looking for when they're going up against opposing defenses, just certain weaknesses to look at. And I think when it comes to Matt Stafford and where he could take this team legitimately has a shot to make it to the Super Bowl this year because this is such an upgrade from what they had in Jared Goff the last couple seasons. This is really the way I think Sean McVay wants this offense to be run, and they have the guy to actually do that. And, even though that I didn't talk about Kyler here, Kyler's great in his own ways. He's able to extend plays with his feet. He's able to kind of do like these, what I would consider they're almost kind of like fadeaway passes where he's just kind of like throwing it off of his back foot. Matt Stafford really isn't known for that. He is kind of more of a pocket passer, can extend the play with his feet and could throw out of the pocket. But Kyler, his skill set is far different than Matt Stafford. He's far more athletic than what Stafford can present. But I just roll with Stafford here because he's just a machine. Granted, when he was playing with Detroit, he was putting up 5,000 yard plus seasons on a routine basis. Kyler Murray, I think, has the potential to do that. It may just depend on how. It depends on how well they open up the playbook for him when it comes to him in Kingsbury. But it's just Matt Stafford. He's on a roll right now. I think he'll do more of the same against this Cardinals defense, which does kind of have a suspect secondary to a certain extent. And if they're able to beat that pass rush that the Cardinals have with Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt, man, I think Matt Stafford is set up for another solid performance where he could put up at least another 300 yards and potentially another 3 touchdown passes. So, yeah, at this point in the season, I would roll with Matt Stafford. I'd give him a slight edge, but that's not to discredit what Kyler's done. Kyler's had a very good start to the season as well. It's just I'm rolling with Matt here.
So I'm definitely going to agree. And it's funny because you kind of broke it down where you said Matt's a little bit more on the traditional side, whereas Kyler can kind of do almost these video game plays where he's throwing off of his back foot, where he's freaking scrambling around, making it look like a Madden video game where he's like zigging and zagging and finding people open. The phrase that comes to my mind is, you remember in Men in Black 2 where Jay has to go get K and he has to like remind him of like all the things they did together. He's describing the cars that they had. He's like, this is what I drive. This is what you drive. This old and busted, and this new hotness. And like everybody's all hyped around Kyler Murray because he's making these electric plays. He's like new hotness. But like Matt Stafford, old and busted, ain't really busted. But that's just, it's funny. That's kind of like the correlation I made in my mind. But we all do know that Matt Stafford is an athletically gifted quarterback in his own right, just like you perfectly described. traditionally a pocket quarterback, has a great arm, very accurate this season. Finally, the best weaponry he's been surrounded with overall as a team on both sides of the football, honestly, and probably the best coach he's ever had outside of Jim Caldwell. But overall, I do agree. I do truthfully and honestly think the Rams are just going to continue their dominance. I agree with Kyle. Arizona's secondary is questionable at best. Outside of J.J. Watt, Isaiah Rodgers, and or Isaiah Simmons, excuse me. Is it Rodgers or Simmons, the linebacker?
I believe it's Simmons.
Yeah, Isaiah Simmons and Chandler Jones. I don't necessarily have any, but excuse me. How could I forget Buda Baker? Outside of those four named players on the defensive side of the ball, I do think Matt Stafford is going to go out there and not torch, but I agree with Kyle. Probably like 325, 350, maybe about 3 scores. Arizona could possibly force a turnover with the athleticism of some of those players. Maybe a strip sack from some of those rushers. Maybe a coverage interception from Buda or Isaiah. But overall, I do see this as a victory for the Rams, taking sole possession of first place in the NFC West. I'm not going to sit here and say that Kyler's going to have a bad game. I'm not coming out here and saying that Kyler is not going to find ways to get the ball in some of his playmakers' hands. I do think that for the most part, DeAndre Hopkins will be blanketed by Jalen Ramsey, as he should be. So it's going to be a big game for A.J. Green, Christian Kirk, and a lot of those other 2 and 3 receivers. And quite frankly, I do think that some of the running backs are going to have to step up out of the backfield. Chase Edmonds, obviously, James Conner and the rest of those boys are going to have to do what they need to do. But the matchup is going to be great. The fact that both quarterbacks are doing such amazing things overall. Okay, DJ LeMahieu leaves game with hip soreness. Great, just as the postseason is going to start. No, it's totally fine. I'm not freaking out inside. It's fine. But yes, in regards to the MVP race, I know that this week will mark the quarter mark of the NFL season. So, I mean, after this game, we'll really be able to give you guys a better prediction as to what we think or who we believe, in our opinion, would be close to an MVP if it were to end on Sunday night or Monday night. But, yeah, no, both quarterbacks are doing incredible. I'm super happy and super excited to watch any Rams, any Cardinals games that I can because, to me, they are must-watch TV on offense. Kyler makes those cool electric Sports Center top 10 play moments, and then Matthew Stafford just absolutely torches defenses to the point where you're just like, how is he open? How is that throw made? But as Kyle and I both stated, this is the best team Matt's been surrounded by his entire career, and he's showing exactly what the envision Sean McVay had for this system when he took over as head coach for the LA Rams. So this matchup's going to be one for the history books as well. It could be a very high-scoring game for both sides. Don't be surprised if the edge rushers for each team does create a turnover. Obviously, you have Aaron Donald on one side, and on the other side of the football, or should I say the other side of the field, you're going to get J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones coming off both sides. So I think it's going to be a good game overall.